I started working on the TOS Cylon Raider here. It's a really cool kit. It's going to be a quick one. You know, just in a few, an hour or so. I just have that on there, and same here. Most of it's really done. It's getting to painting. These pieces I just have on there, and I really only just have the top just sitting on there. But we got these pieces glued on. There's side details here. I think that's it for the top half. Here's my 3D printed engines that I got from Shapeway from a gentleman. And that'll allow me to put 4 little 3mm LEDs per engine. So we'll put some flickering ones in there. And then here's the bottom. Got the base in. Like I said, this kit here I think I got pre-packaged, and maybe it was sent back, or because it was still actually had the seal on the outer box, but people can do that. But definitely was built once before, because these parts someone actually glued in here, and they glued them in the wrong spot. Then I got the kit, they were broken out, but you could see the glue and the brake marks. So maybe even the person might have started it a long time ago and then shrunk wrapped the whole box, but it looked pretty factory. So I don't know if they sent it back and it got redone, but yeah, and they were starting on the stand piece here, which I reused. This is a little, I don't know if the instructions will show the part better. It's a peg with a ball, and then the ball has a slit, which is supposed to for compression, so it fits in this cap real tight. But it already had a hole through the center almost all the way, so I just drilled it completely through. It came up in between the notches, that way I can sneak a wire through, and then I just drilled a hole in the top here, and that should still be able to, it's so you can actually give the ship like an angle on the stand. So that's why they did the ball joint. And so I can, reuse all that. So I kept that on there and glued that in there. I was just looking at wooden bases there to see what to put this base on. Because this base, sometimes if they're not horrible, I like to incorporate the original bases. And this isn't bad. I mean, it's really not that bad even on its own. If I wasn't lighting the model, it would sit there pretty good. I gotta file this hole a little better for this peg to fit, especially when it's probably gonna get some paint on it and stuff too. But yeah, these were glued back here. They were still glued there when I got the kit. I actually had to break them out. And then refile them, put them where they're supposed to be. And that's in the front. Because they used to have the little, which I'm not going to install, they have little guns mechanisms with rubber bands. The rubber bands are long gone, and even if they were in this box, they would probably be sticking to everything and dry rotted. So it's probably a good thing the rubber bands weren't in there. Unless this kit says you had to go supply yourself with your own. I didn't read. Sometimes, they might say get your own rubber bands, but then you got to find the right size for the tension. There's the old pour engines that they wanted you to put on. They were just little squares that sat back here, and I grinded those posts off so these could fit. And yeah, but that was the old guns that used to fire, and you hit the little button on the bottom, which I puttied those holes up. And since the way those triggers were, the way this one was going to mount, it put the trigger hole right in the center of this bar. So I took a pieces of styrene, actually didn't have one thick enough, just folded it over, and it made it just perfectly thickness, and then cut it to fit, and continued that bar on. So that's what that white patch is. And then there's, on this side is the actual putty. And the rest of the hole, because half the hole's under this white part, which continues this bar going through. And then that one's just putty, so we got to sand that before we do a primer. And then I just took the caps from these missiles that are actually supposed to press in, and I just cut them off and used those as caps to cap the hole. So it gives detail. I mean, I could have puttied it, but that way it still gives a little bit of detail there. Well, hello. I got these all painted black. Did the inside as well, where we're, you know, and could do light coats since I did it on both sides. But yeah, we're gonna have a single LED here, yellow LED for the headlights, which are gonna come out of that, and then our engines. So I went pretty good back here where the engines would be. We could even make a wall here if need to be, or when I get the LEDs in here I can black them out before we close the whole ship in. So they're going to sit right about there. And they're not fitting too bad. But I'm definitely going to want to maybe in this channel take some tulip, because tulip works great as a light blocker because it's a thick paint. It shrinks a little bit, but if you get enough on it that it squishes out, I could put it in this channel all the way around, you know, at least on the bottom half if I install these first in the bottom, which I probably will. I think all the electronics are going to be in the bottom half. Yeah, I can squish so much of that, and it's got some room, plus these walls will hopefully keep it contained, and it'll seal up any of the gaps at the same time as gluing these. Don't really have something for it to glue onto too. I might want to make a rail for it to fit in here to where I want it to sit. But that's where we're at. The other parts, I like the pieces that go right here, and the grill here, the guns, and what else is over there? Oh, the piece that goes across between the two engine cover things, and the very end piece. I'm going to do those in a gunmetal. So they're over there. This I think I'm going to paint a gunmetal. And then I'm going to, you know, mist it with the hull color to kind of make it blend in. Same thing, I might color some of these squares in with different grays and then mist it. And the decal for this older kit is wrong. It's down here and it's black with a red border. So we can't use that, so we got to come up with we're going to have to paint one on here, which most people do, and it does look better painted. Just got to get a good, I think that's where the Tamiya tape's going to come in handy right there. But yeah, oh, and these got to get painted, the gunmetal too. I did the black just to light block them a little bit so they didn't just glow, because 3D printed, that milky 3D printed parts will tend to glow. And with this black, and then the gunmetal's quite black, we should be alright. But yeah, and then here's, I puttied up the base where this piece glues onto here. Used some perfect plastic putty, and then just went around and sanded, and then even used Scotch-Brite, and then I just went over it with a wet towel. So that's going to be ready to paint, and I think we're going to do this, that zinc. To stay into that Cylon metallic world. But I don't want to be black, but that zinc is a dark, dark metallic gray. I don't want to be black because I'm going to put it on a wooden base that's going to be black. So I think that would work better. But that's where I'm at. I figure I'd just show a little update. I already made this too long as is. Alright. Well, we got these painted. I used the gunmetal. So it's kind of a black, but it's a metallic, which I think will look best for my version. But still kind of trying to keep it in the Canon version, but I noticed they have a little black, and then what I'll do is, on like especially these louvers here, is I'll mist some of the hull color on it to kind of blend it in, and on this part, this I'll leave the same, but it's going to get the hull color on there and on these bars. Guns, of course, we'll leave alone, but they came out good. I did a worn penny there, painted it mainly all in gunmetal, and then did a worn penny there, and a silver on the end, and then a bronze on the cap there to give to give more different shades of color there. So these will mist. This will probably leave alone. That'll get mist. These will leave alone. The engines, and that will leave alone. But I begun to work on the engines. I got this one kind of pre-set up. What I have going on here is I have 2 blue flickerings that are controlling 2 regular whites. So that way it gives you, because they were kind of like more on the white side. Like my Galactica, I think I just left white. I might have did a little blue shading around the edge of the bulb. Kind of like, I might have did a little blue on the edge here, but the main part white. But I believe I left mainly the main engines of the Galactica white, because they kind of are white if you look on the original release in the first season. Especially, they were more of a white, even the Vipers. But we'll add a little bit of blue to it. So I think, I'm hoping, I did a test with just one side. Let's see, positive, negative. Oh, we can't do it with I was doing it with this, and that's kind of weird because it should really blow them out. But I guess the battery's low, and we're already using 6 volts, so guess that's why it's not blowing it out. But it kind of gives you this kind of effect. If I can hit both at the same time. So it's kind of washing it out as a bluish white. So then I'm just kind of putting one here and one here. And then I'll do the whites in that spot. It's like I got a white, a blue, a blue. And then they're going to kind of flicker this way. And you can tell which way these engines are going to fit because it has like kind of like a pointed, that's the sides. So this one's going to control the bottom one, and this one's going to control the top one. So it's kind of going to have like each half of these engines are going to flicker together. This half here is going to flicker together. This half here is going to flicker together. But at least you're going to get like 2 flickerings per engine. But so we'll pick one. This is our side because it has these are flat on these edges, but here it bumps out. And I am going to make this one the positive. So you kind of pick what one's going to be your control per side. So one LED I'm keeping the positive, which you want to make sure that positive is the blue. That's the flickering that's going to control the plain white one. So I'll keep that positive to the outside. And I like to mark them anyway with a red marker. This is a simple way to visually not screw up really quick, because sometimes you get doing things and you get distracted and forget what's what. Or you cut them, because you can tell what's the anode and the cathode by the length. But once you cut them, there that goes away, and then you got to keep testing them with a battery or something. So that's where that just comes in simple to do that. But then that way I can bend this negative to the positive on the white. So we'll keep that separate. That's the blue. And get all these things out of my way. I just brought them out to show you guys. So then I'll grab a white. We'll do one side at a time. And in this white, since this negative's since it's going to be a series, so its power is going to come in through the positive, come out the negative, and then come into this positive. And that's how it controls it, because its flickering changes the volts coming out of the negative of it. We want to have that positive on that side, the same side as the negative of the other one. And these 3D printing things are nice. They just press right in. I'm not even bother gluing them, because they're in there nice and tight. So then what I was doing is on these, so then I have on this outer edge the positive of this one and the negative of that one. So this is going to be the end. It's going to jump over and then out it goes. So we'll trim those, and that's why I marked that red, so now I still know what's what. And in these, I got this little tool with a notch, which works great, because you can go like that and you can bend things nice at a 90-degree angle. So it looks a little cleaner. I could easily just bend them down till they touch, but this looks cleaner. And I like to try to make it look, ouch, that was sharp. I try to make it look as clean as possible. And you just bend them like that, and then they're touching, and then I can just take some solder, so it looks just like that. And I can't wait till I can afford a camera that'll zoom when I move things. But it's hard for me to do that, because I'd rather spend that money on a model. Because that's the whole reason I'm doing this in the first place, is to build stuff. So it's hard pressed to, there's model kits out there. I'm hoping that Kronos 1 comes in soon. And then yeah, so you just lay them across so they're kind of folding in like this, and then I'm just soldering them together, and then we can just trim off these little extra ends. I'll do a quick test. It seems like the 9-volt battery is working fine, and we got power. Instead of running little jumpers, just bend them into them if they reach, and then especially if they're not going to knock on anything in short. Or you can even slide a piece of shrink tube over it, if you can. If you can get it off to one side and solder, and then slide a piece of shrink tube to keep the metal parts from hitting anything. But here we don't have any risk of them bumping into anything, unless something's inside there and actually pushes one of these prongs in. And I can always push these a little further away from those two. And I can hit them with shrink tube over top of those too. But there it is. And let's try this other side just to be... Got power, and I'm not sure if I had it right. And we got power. Everything is looking good. So now it's to do the jump ring. And then we'll make tails, because we can actually glue those in. This is a nice ship. It's really going together quick. We should get some resistors on the ends. I wonder if I should go and just wrap it around it. Yeah, I can get it to do that. Not much room. I always rather have these things wrap around, so you can kind of get in like that and just Spin them around. Oh, trying to pull that bulb out of there. You stay in there. And I can solder that resistor on. And then it holds it nicer too. Get rid of that end. And then we gotta do this one. Do the same thing, wrap it. And I guess this is better than having 4 flickering. I think 4 flickering bulbs would just be too much. It's going to be already weird enough with, but at least we can say, you know, this is fires together and this half fires together. There we go. Trim off the excess. Make sure everybody's pushed tightly down in. Oh, we raining again, or is it getting windy? It's another miserable rainy week. Alright, let's try one of these. Oh, catching my, burning up my cables here. And I like to turn this on before I, just in case I set it to something too hot. And I think we can use these. I don't know, they might be too big. Oh, I won't be able to fire. I gotta at least connect the negatives together. I think if I cut this in half, because I don't have to cover the whole resistor. I just need to cover that base where the bare wire is. Just like that. And hopefully this one will do the same. Yes, it does. We can show a little bit of the blue of the resistor. We just want to make sure if we bend these together, we won't short out on those pieces there. Use a little shrink and heat. Shrink those down. There we go. And then we can just do that. And then twist those positives together. And then the shrink tube will keep it from shortening what hits those parts there. And then we can just take a little solder them together. Yep, it's raining. And get rid of the excess. And then we can just solder one power on there and it'll distribute through both resistors to each bulb. I gotta make sure I don't keep pulling these out. I might have to glue them in. Just maybe a dab of super glue on this side. Once they're in there, they won't go anywhere. I wouldn't think. They try to pull themselves out just from the tension of everything we're doing up here. Alright, but we need black, or any wire really. We'll use green for our negative or our ground in a sense. I need a pair of strippers. Not prepared today. What I'll do. I probably should have put some shrink tube on that. It only needs to go to the middle of the ship, and we'll tie everything together on what comes up the post. So we only need a little bit. Plus some extra, because I need to, let's just fake it like it's going to that one. There we go. And while we're at it, let's cut another one the same length. There we go. For the other side. Now, to do this trick, I could either just jump over like that, or I could sneak. I probably should add a little shrink tube there. It's not vital because I don't think that's going to bounce into anything either, but let's just make sure. It's always good precautionary. And it gives some strength to it. But what we can do is we can cheat you under those. Maybe not, because I gotta strip it. And one bad thing about those strippers is they don't leave you much room. Because what you gotta do is mark where you want it and kind of drop that in. I might need to lighten that. Yeah, it broke the cable. Unbelievable. Yeah, if you have that set too tight, it'll actually snap it. Well, it left, so we gotta do this the hard way. Or the long way. Unbelievable. See it cut it, so barely having good wire there. I should always test an end before I do that, because if it's set, each one of these wires, even though they're the same, like as far as, you know, I ordered them, they came in a pack the same, the insulation's different, like by color. So some I gotta be careful because this thing wants to, and then some I need a little more, and it's just like a slight little turn on this grabber guide. Get a little bit of tinning on there. tweezers. Yeah, and I knew that would be a shitty solder joint because I can't see what I'm soldering. Alright, that's a little better. And there we go. So I guess now we can maybe try it. Let's see if it's still gonna give us the length we need. Oh yeah. Hey, and there we go. Oh. So it's kind of doing the effect that I want. But you definitely can look in there and see a blue white. But definitely as the further you get away, that they kind of blend themselves in. Yeah. Everybody's working and everybody's flickering. We're happy. So these can get installed in the motor. And I probably could, just to finish it off, I should be able to get away with the same amount of white as we did with the green. We might as well just solder those tails on there so it's completely ready to just glue into the bottom chassis. Another thing with these, you want to make sure they clean themselves out. You get pieces of I just tightened that. Well, something is jammed in there. There it goes. Even that's a hair tight. Alright. Probably should make these longer so I can give them a twist around the post. Like I said, anytime you can get things to twist around things, better. Freaking solder jumped to the solder gun, but it didn't go on to the. Yeah, that's pretty good. And we'll get a shrink tube now. Slide that one down. And all nice and neat. Yeah, I think we're good to put these in. So, Since I'm gonna use, I believe I should be using super glue with these. These resin pieces aren't really gonna. But what I do is put a lot of this so it can squish. And I only have to do it on these first. It's almost make it like a gasket. I did this with something else. And when I squish it down, it spreads. We're going to have to do this kind of fast. The super glue was drying up on me like slow, but now when I need it to hang out, get stuff in position, it wants to dry really quick, of course. This should be interesting. You almost need a super glue holder that sorry, it's time to concentrate. Because you don't want to cross-pollinate the tulip and the super glue. Otherwise the super glue is not going to work. There we go. That's in there pretty good. And I could even put a little super glue right in these corners. Because they're not going to be in the way of anything. There we go. Yeah, and it's flowing down and sealing all that up. Oh yeah, it's doing a really good job. There we go. Yeah, I like them in. Then it doesn't make it like, if that would came forward, it would look like panel lines and stuff that would have had to been cleaned up. It's already bad enough I'm going to have to clean up all this edge all the way around the ship. And this doesn't fit in very good. If you have it all the way down here, you have a gap up here and vice versa. So I got to figure out how. You know, maybe I'll put a piece of styrene in here until I can build it up. This little flexible piece of styrene, that's an idea. And then what I can do with this, I can actually see if I'm getting any light leaks through the sides. No. Maybe a little bit there. But what you can do is then we can actually squirt down in those channels some tulip. And maybe we can get it to go down in there. Oh, that fixed that. And none at the bottom, so what I put on the bottom worked really good too. And it works like a gasket. You just build it up a little higher. Like here was my glue ridge, and I just built the glue up a little higher, and then when it's squished, it can seal all that, and it had plenty of room to move between these two bars. So I just put it right in the center. So that worked good. Just trying to do that without hitting the tulip. Beautiful. How's that with light leaks? Really good. Pretty good. I might see a little one in the very far corner here, but that I can actually reach with. Let's close the super glue up before it dries. This thick super glue is really starting to get thick. Again, we'll squirt some down in there. I don't know if I can work it down from that way. That's the super glue one now. Where's the one I was... Or did I already put you back in here? Yeah, I did. Okay, the toothpicks are always hiding behind these Q-tips. I might be able to squish it down in there to block that little bit of light I was seeing. And we did. Beautiful. Now that's that half, and everything looks pretty parallel. Well, that looked like it was tilting a little bit. Let's see if the top, let's close this up. Let's see if the top actually wants to go, and if it caused any issues with the top going on. And we're going to have issues with these wires hanging out like that. Although this is a dome, so. And then we're going to paint these gun steel, these raised areas, and the same thing on the bottom. No, that looks good. A little bit of a side view. That's where they're supposed to be. Now, what do we got going on here? Something not, there it goes. Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun putting this together, getting all these pins. And this, being a curved ship, it's already warped. But, like, see how, like, this is so much bigger, and then, like, you got... There's this play where it goes up and down. It's not bad this way. It's, so if you have it towards the top, you got this gap at the bottom. So we'll have to figure out that. But like I said, I might run in just a couple pieces of styrene. I thought about keeping it in the center. And that does cover everything. But I don't think it would look... Oh, of course. And not only do I drop it, it goes into like the weirdest place. Yeah, but if it's sitting in the center, you kind of have that raised bump where I'd rather have it up like that instead of down a little bit, but I guess that'd be alright. But you still get a little bit, and I'm afraid I'm going to be able to see some light leaks, so I'd rather just pop it all the way up and That's quite a, well, we're not squeezed all the way tight either. We will just put it in the center. Like I said, I'll see once I have everything clamped together, but the engines look good. That makes me happy. See if we can get a hole drilled for these headlights. I'm just going to go with one of these raised bumps. It's not Canon. They're supposed to be more up, I think, up in these corners. But I'm just going to go with this here as the yellow lights, because if I drill a hole there, I don't know. Like this side doesn't really have the room, so I think we're just going to go for the detail part. See if we can hit on center. It fits in there nice, and then I think once we mushroom it, yeah. Let's see if I can do that and do this at the same time. Oh, I can't get it into camera. You can see it a little bit. Maybe on this one, I think we're going to be too high for that too, yeah. But that works. So it feels like I'm going to be through already, because that feels spongy. I think it's just about to come through the back. Yeah, I don't see it. Now I'm feeling it. There it goes. There we are. Fingers crossed. Oh yeah, that looks good too. Even better than the other one. But yeah, I figured it was best to go off those details and instead of trying to drill just arbitrary hole. This side's not too bad, but this side just there's a little bit of gap from the over there, and I'm afraid I'm gonna bust through weird, and so this thing's not completely Canon anyway. It's fairly close for out of these older Monogram kits for Battlestar Galactica. I think this is probably, and I think other people have agreed, out of like, you know, the Base Star and the Galactica and the Vipers, this is one of the more accurate ones. Although I think the Vipers are pretty close too. There might be detail, but alright, so that's that. We have the yellow LED. I really would just need to make the wiring for it and find a mounting point. Get tugged a little bit. Alright, it'd be great if we can have all these power up. So I think what we're going to do, we're just going to super glue that sucker right there. Or I should have hot glued it maybe too. That would do the super glue. It's quicker. Yeah. Fit in there. Oop. Can't put the mushroom in first. Oh, and those will look great. And I can just put some little the latex, liquid latex on them when I paint it. So, to end this episode, would like to. Probably getting late too. Yeah, it's definitely getting late. But I can't stop once I get started. I'm gonna want to hook it all up. First, we'll twist these together. Eventually, all this is gonna happen anyway. So really, I can kind of permanently do this. And this is all the wiring that's going to be in here. And eventually these are all going to just get tied to a main power coming from the base. The solid core just kind of sits there and twists and doesn't really twist. It kind of just sits there and lets the rest of them spin around it. There we go. Alright, let's turn you off solder gun. I'm going to pause you for a sec as I clean up and get this ready to do a light test. Alright, she's working. Working great. And there's the effect. I mean, it's a little washed out, but it works. It's not, it made the blue not so, like, ridiculously blue. So I like that. But you can still see the, you know, the difference in the white and the blue cubes, but once you really, like, get behind it, it really looks good. And then there's our fiber optics up front. Let's see if I can get it in this camera. So those are working. You can see the light down in there. So that's it for as far as, boy, those engine lights are bright. Look how it's putting like a glow way out here. And that's because of how bright the white is, but it's good that the white is a little brighter, because it's pulling it more in that white zone, which is really where I want to be, more in that white area instead of blue. But they are bright. You can see the blue and the whites together. But yeah, once you look directly on like you would see in the camera on the show, it looks more like, but even the camera is giving it a little more, to your eye, it really goes white. But I wanted them a little more on the blue than the show, so it's doing exactly what I hoped for. And we're line, there we go. I figured I'd put those panels on just to give us a look. But there you have it. That's the wiring. Very simple. Even with doing everything back there, it's all just fairly simple. We just did a series to allow a blue flickering control white, regular white. So that's it. Until next update, thanks for watching.